We're back with another interesting episode. It's Budget Podcast. My name is Nancy Odemegu. Thank you for joining us. For today's episode, we'll be looking at the extractive industry. Nigeria's extractive industry. Just a quick assessment of what is going on other than oil and gas in the sector. We also have solid minerals and the rest. And we have the lead of Extractive of Budget, Engineer Adejoke Akimbode. She'll be joining us in the conversation today. Hi, Joke.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you.
Good to have you join us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So, the extractive industry, people say extractive is wide. We have oil and gas, solid mineral. We have so many things in extractive. So let's start with an assessment. Just take us through what Nigeria extractive industry is looking like right now.
Okay, so for Nigeria, right? So when we say extractive industry, basically is oil and gas sector and solid mineral sector.
Okay.
But of course, we all know that the country will focus more on the oil and gas sector, as like we know, majority of our revenue comes from oil and gas sector. So, but then again, how have we been able to manage this sector in the past more than over 50 years now that we've been exploring oil in the country? So we realized that for now we have about 37 billion barrels of crude oil reserves in the country, and let's say in some 40-45 years, crude oil is actually going into, it won't be commercially viable again.
Okay.
Then what happens if we still decide to focus on oil and gas sector? And this is where solid minerals come into
place,
right? Nigeria is blessed with over 40 solid minerals. We have seven major solid minerals, priority minerals in the country, but governments, they are yet to explore this sector, right? And it's actually amusing that just last week the budget team were actually in Cross River State to visit some mining sites, and you could see the wonders that are happening in this that is going on in this sector, and is one area that government needs to pay attention to, as soon as possible.
So when you say we are blessed with over 40, and you mentioned like some 7 solid, I think 6 solid, what can you tell us? What and what?
So look at limestone. We have limestone, we have bitumen, we have gold. We have iron ore. Actually, so iron ore last week.
Are you serious?
Yes. So so we have lead, we have zinc, we have coal.
Yeah.
So the 7 priority minerals, even like I said, we have over 40, right?
Yes.
So even forget about 7 priority minerals. I don't think there's any state in the country that actually does have 1 or 2 solid minerals.
Yeah.
And government, federal government, state government, they actually need to pay attention to this sector. It's high time we shift focus from crude oil.
Yes.
So the solid mineral sector is one aspect that governments, they've not been able to pay attention to. And we also what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, that crude oil price dropped. It's been consistent now that every time crude oil price dropped, Nigeria virtually falls into recession. And that's because we solely survive on crude oil. And it's not meant, before crude oil we were surviving on something.
Yes, no.
Right?
Yeah.
So basically our extractive sector needs to be looked into beyond crude oil.
Okay.
Beyond crude oil.
All right. So with this now, how would you say oil has impacted the nation's economy?
Let's start with the let's start with public debts.
Okay.
Spec in public debts. If with our oil, right, we explore, we sell our crude oil, then we try to import refined products.
Yes.
And it's so sad that for a nation like Nigeria that actually has crude oil, we cannot even refine our own crude oil in the country, because we have to send it out to bring it back. To then buy it and at a more like very expensive. And that's where we have this subsidy payments that when it comes in, because the landing cost is actually too high for citizens to afford, right? So another thing is, if you look at exchange rate volatility and the current account shortfall, so 95% of foreign exchange earnings actually is tied to oil, right? So when there is no oil to sell, then Nigeria there's always devaluation of naira, because our exchange rates. So our forex comes majorly from crude oil.
Yes.
So we earn less revenue from oil and gas exports if we really look at it. So, and that's because majorly without crude oil, there's no exports for us. Like, what else do we even export in this country beyond crude oil? And that's one thing that affects it. Doesn't just affect the federal government, but look at the states. Virtually all states in Nigeria actually depend on crude oil revenue from the FAC allocation they get from government every month. And we saw what happened last year, that federal government had to cut down the budget, and virtually all states too did the same thing, because they could not even survive on their own IGR.
Yes.
Right. So, and that's where you see that when states doesn't get enough FAC from government, it affects capital expenditure. The capital projects in states get the brunt of it most, and state governments decide to spend most of this money on recurrent expenditure. So I think one thing that state government needs to look at is beyond FAC allocation. What can they even do within their own states to generate revenue? So because crude oil has so much power, so much impact in the country, that without crude oil, I don't think we can actually survive as a nation, right? So it's something we need to look into. And like I said again, recession, almost every time that crude oil price drops, Nigeria goes into recession. So are you telling me that maybe in some, like I said, 45 years time, when there's no oil at all, will Nigeria be in recession
forever,
permanently? So it's something government needs to. It's high time we start paying attention to this really.
Okay, so regarding paying attention to the sector now, so what would you say are some of the outstanding issues in Nigeria's oil and gas as well as solid mineral sector?
The issues are unlimited, trust me, but just to mention a few, we have for oil and gas sector, we have ineffective benefit transfer mechanism. And when we talk about that, for benefit transfer mechanism, is look at the Niger Delta region, for example, right? So this is where we get the crude oil from. But trust me, that region is really, really underdeveloped compared to other regions in the country that doesn't even produce this natural resource that everybody depend on, right? So if you go to Niger Delta region, trust me, those people are really suffering. Like, there's no development. They don't even benefit from the revenue gotten from this crude oil.
Yeah.
So, and it's not because the government is actually not making attempts to, do something for them. But we have the 30% derivation that goes to just oil producing states. We have the NDDC. We have NDDC. We have the 3% that companies pay to NDDC to develop this region. But because of the way corruption is in the country, so they don't this revenue it actually doesn't go to where it's supposed to go to. So at the end of the day, the people that benefit from this revenue, they don't even live in these communities, right? They don't even know the plight of those that live in the community. So it doesn't even, the benefit at the end of the day doesn't get to the grassroots people, right? And if you look at environmental pollution, like I said, so it's still the same people that actually suffer for it. We have the gas flaring, crude oil leakages, maybe when there is pipeline vandalism, and crude oil spills into the farmlands and river.
Yes.
So that causes some pollution, a lot of pollution, and it affects the people that live in these communities. So their source of livelihood, because of course most of the people in the river and Rhine areas are actually
fishermen. Yes.
So right, so there's no fish in the waters again for them to bring sell and all those stuff. And like I said again, for something like solid minerals, we have artisanal mining is actually an issue, and it's not supposed to be an issue if government is actually ready to scale it up for them. So at times, some people call it illegal mining, right? Maybe most of them don't have licenses
to mine.
And you won't want to blame them, because these licenses are actually very expensive for this kind of people to pay for.
Okay.
So yes, so if government can actually make it, give them license and make it maybe cheaper or something for them. Yes. So there's some mining sites you go and you actually see houses surrounding these mining sites. Is blasting of minerals the noise and everything is not going to be good for anybody's health.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
those are some of the issues. We also have technical capacity. Government needs to help them when it comes to capacity building and all. There's so many issues in this in the extractive sector in the country, but of course, just to mention a few, like I said earlier.
All right. So regarding the issues, right? What do you think are the possible solutions, and what action to be taken to implement them?
So when it comes to environmental pollution, so governments could maybe deploy some technology, maybe deployment of technology designed to swiftly detect, that they can use to detect and localize or cut off flows when pipelines are leaking. So when it comes to pipeline vandalism, now there should be a way that maybe when a pipe is being vandalized and crude oil start leaking,
they should get the signal.
They should get the signal, right? So but in most cases they don't even know that
until
maybe
it has
pipelines
affected.
Yes, so you
Okay,
understand.
that's true.
So that's like we need to scale up our technology know-how. Is part of it. And of course, looking at ineffective benefit transfer mechanism, right? I think it's high time that to reduce leakages in this sector, we need to start our beneficial ownership checks.
Okay.
And of course, Nigeria, we have the register already for the BO register, but it's not in use. The procurement chain value chain needs to be assessed. Open contracting, we need to know, okay, they want to maybe give license to people for probably oil wells. It needs to be open, because I don't think it's like you just said, okay, government they've allocated some oil wells or thereabout to people, but the citizens are not even aware how this bidding and stuff went. They went about it, right? So government needs to open contracting, and beneficial ownership is something that is going to actually reduce revenue leakages in the extractive sector. And of course, when it comes to stabilization savings framework for us in the country, we sort of have different savings mechanism in the country, but I think governments needs to harmonize all these savings and stabilization laws, so that that okay, we have the excess crude account, we have the NSIA. Needs to be maybe harmonized, so that okay, excess the money from crude oil that we want to save is going into one account, not different accounts. And of course, you don't if looking at that excess crude account, I remember that when the 2019 election was coming, I think like towards the end of 2018, for 3-4 months consecutively, the rate at which they actually withdrew from this account was alarming, right? And one would wonder that why are you withdrawing like that prior to an election year, just few months to election? So I think that needs to be looked into as well, because maybe probably a government thinks, okay, what if I don't come back to government? Like,
yes,
you understand?
So the money goes, so let me take while I can.
Like 3-4 months to the end of 2018, the rate at which I can't remember the figure offhand now, but it was really, really alarming, right? So it's something government needs to look into. And when it comes to artisanal mining for the solid mineral sector, like I said, I think government should just legalize artisanal mining, because most times they call it illegal mining, but people call it artisanal mining. Just legalize it and create some policies that will help these people that practice this kind of mining to be able to actually afford license, right? And of course, technical capacity, like I said, there should be some sort of capacity building and skill training for small-scale miners, and artisanal miners. And of course, we have to, there should be some. So I think another major problem we have in the solid mineral sector is lack of data, geosciences data. So there should be some sort of ways that we can digitize this data, geosciences data, because I don't think solid minerals, I don't think there's even any viable data available
in the sector.
In the sector for solid minerals. So I think that we should look at the international standard, how they do their documentation when it comes to data, geosciences data, and we could adopt that process too for the solid minerals sector.
All right. So some of these solutions now, would you categorize them as long-term intervention strategy? Would you say they can serve, or you have some other ones? Because reforms, especially in natural resources in developing countries such as Nigeria, it happens slowly and across multiple political administration. Like you said when you were giving your illustration, four term, after four term another person is not sure if he's coming in and what he wants to cash out while he can, and the next person comes with another set of reform, another set of intervention strategy. So which of these can you say categorically can take us the long-term road, even if we change administration, which will eventually happen, is still sustainable?
Yeah, so I think one problem we have in the country is continuity, right? So somebody is there today, these are the things I want to do, then probably he does it maybe halfway, then he leaves, another person comes, they don't continue with that, they want to do their own,
yes.
They want to bring their own reform, their own strategy, and it's sort of it doesn't even bring reasonable results at the end of the day. I mean, half work that is half done, then somebody else is come and disregard that. It's not like maybe it doesn't make sense, but because I just want to come and put my own footprint, this is my own stuff, right? So I think continuity is part of what we lack in this country, and that's because maybe differences in political parties or something. So people don't, I just want to do my own thing. So all these issues that we have in the extractive sector as a whole, right, it's not something that you can solve in a short term. Is actually long term, but you have to start from somewhere, right? So I think one major problem we have in the country is lack of research, right? So we actually need to make research, and this is where non-state actors, CSOs, actually come in, right? We need to do a lot of research that will actually give us enough evidence to make high-quality arguments for policy development or implementation. I mean, look at what happened with the Petroleum Industry Act, right? Do you know how many years that thing has been in the over 20, I think around 21 years now, but we kept on pushing, this is why we need this act, right? This is why we need the PIA, but now, this is 2021, and it's been, and I like the fact that it's been passed, is now an act, and the implementation process seems to be fast. So because I think another problem we have in the country is implementation gaps, right? So we create a lot of policies, but we tend not to implement them. So the policies will just be there, lying fallow, and the implementation, we have issue of implementing policies in Nigeria. So we need to do more of research when it comes to the extractive sector, especially the solid mineral sector. Because I feel like everybody focuses on the oil and gas, like I said. So we need more research to actually, so at least when you have, when you are informed about something, they can now tender your arguments to policymakers, right? And I think so after the research, then we need advocacy. So CSOs needs to come. We need some sort of synergy among CSOs. I mean, one person cannot do it all. Instead of people just working individually, we need some sort of synergy to drive this advocacy to the government. This is why we need this. This is why we want to do that. So we need a joint voice, right?
Definitely.
So a lot of things that we can do, maybe capacity building, like I said, and all these interventions shouldn't be a one-off thing, right? It needs to be continuous and it has to be sustainable. Because we need sustainability too, and if we really want this reform to take place. And looking at so we have so many corruption cases in the extractive sector, especially the oil and gas sector. So we need a strong litigation process, because I mean, you realize that most of these corruption cases just maybe get stuck in the courts room and you don't hear anything about it again. A very good example is the Malabo case, the OPA 245. I mean, imagine the huge amount of money the country actually lost in that case, right? So we when there is a corruption case in the sector, it's something that needs to be seen to the end. And what happens? But most of these corruption cases just halfway, and nobody says anything about it again. You don't hear anything about it again. And of course, another thing we need to do is feedback, right? So so if you are doing something, NGOs, donors, journalists need to try to look at what is happening globally. And can now this is what they are doing globally. Maybe you can pick some countries that we can emulate, and can we replicate what they are doing in our country? At least look at Saudi Aramco, right? Is like Saudi Aramco is one company I like to compare our NNPC with every time, and it saddens my heart that we are far away from
from
them.
reaching where
so
they
we
are.
can, yeah, you understand. So we can look at these countries that are actually performing well with their natural resources and how are they doing it and is working out for them. Can we replicate that in our own country? So I think those are few things. I mean, we have a whole lot. So those are few things that we can do that can actually, help this sector to grow the way we want
long
it.
term. Yeah. So before I let you go, right now, having said all of this, what do you think? What can budgets do? Right, and other non-state actors, what can they do to just as support to develop the sector?
A whole lot, and like I said, working individually doesn't even cut it anymore, so we need synergy, like I said. So I think one thing budget has been doing for almost 4 years now is we created an extractive consultative forum.
Okay,
we started in 2018 and we do it every quarter. On a quarterly basis, we come to a round table and look at the key issues in the extractive sector. So what is budget working on? What is this organization working on? What are you working on? How can we collaborate? So we need some sort of collaboration. We need to if you collaborate together to amplify your voice, right? And we try to look at how we can. So we come together, look at how we can actually strengthen advocacy in the industry, in the sector, as one, as a joint, stuff, instead of. Working alone doesn't even cut it anymore in this situation. And I think another thing we can do, budget and other non-state actors, is we need to continue to keep the pace when it comes to data, policy, and policy analysis. I mean, you can just decide to take one issue, maybe beneficial ownership, and carry out some research. What is happening in this country? What the country can do? Make recommendations to the government, So we need to, keep that up. We need to continue. Then, of course, we need to mobilize citizens too, because a lot of citizens actually don't even understand what happens in this sector.
Yes.
So because, extractive sector is one sector, it's too technical, so most people don't even understand it. We need to, carry out some sort of stakeholder engagement to, educate citizens so that they can also know that, so they can add their own voice too. Trust me, CSOs and cannot do it alone. We need the grassroots people. So, and of course, data is very important when you're, doing your stuff. And that's one thing we've been doing in budget when it comes to extractive data. So we try to analyze policies in the industry, bring out data and say, how can we use this to pass our message to the people and the government? So those are just few things that budget and other non-state actors can do to, make this sector work.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. There you have it. That was the lead of Extractive, engineer Adejoke Akimbode, and she was taking us through Nigeria's extractive industry, everything you need to know about oil and gas, solid mineral. And trust me, there is more. Like, Nigeria economy is beyond oil right now, and we need to diversify and utilize all of the sector. Thank you so much, Joke. Thank you for coming in today. Do you have any last words to just add?
Thank you, Nancy. So I would just say government needs to, listen to the citizens at this point. Okay. And it's time government shift focus from crude oil. We need to start looking at Nigeria beyond crude oil.
Yes.
So, and a good sector we can shift focus to is the solid mineral sector. So, because, oil is going into extinction and we shouldn't wait till then and start saying, so what's next for the country? So I think it's that time government really, really pays attention to the fact that without crude oil, we cannot survive, and it's not supposed to be. We have so many countries that don't even have oil, and they're
doing fine.
They're very fine. Yes. So I believe we were even fine before crude oil came. So I really don't know what went wrong. So I think I'll give my advice for the government to start looking beyond crude oil.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't forget to share, like, and keep your comments coming. On Facebook, it's BudgetNG. On Twitter, it's BudgetNG. And on Instagram, it's also BudgetNG. My name is Nancy Odemegu. Until next time, do have a lovely day.